You are a detective who has been sent out on a case to investigate a murder. A man has been lynched and left to fester hanging off a tree branch. Inconveniently, the detective has woken up in a trashed motel room, barely clothed and with a banging hangover. A hangover so banging that it has banged out all of his memories, such as the whereabouts of his gun, his ID badge, and even his own name, thus making a tricky investigation even trickier, as he has to piece together not only how the man on the tree died, but also work out his own identity and what put him in this state. You are joined by Lieutenant Kim Kitsuragi, a consummate pro. He will give our detective prompts and herd him in the right direction for the good of the case, often reining in a sense of composure when things get a bit silly. Whether or not you choose to follow his advice is your matter. Interacting with the citizens and environment of Martinez is done via dialogue trees. Walk up to someone to interact and start your thought process to gain the information you need to piece together this puzzle. There is little to no action, hardly any combat, and literally a million words. See this game as bridging the gap between an isometric point and click and a visual novel. Disco Elysium has its mechanics based on tabletop RPGs. You're initially allowed to pick how your motorics, intellect, psyche, and physique attributes are weighted. For example, you can choose to put more points into intellect and you'll gain better knowledge from the detective's memories or analyse in finer detail the environment, or if you put more into physique, it'll increase your pain threshold or hand-eye coordination. There are 6 sub-skills per attribute, and spending XP on these helps you interact with the world better. There's a health and a morale bar, physical and mental states, and when these are fully depleted, the game is over. They can, however, be topped up with the various items you come across in the world. And because it's based on tabletop RPGs, skill checks are won or lost depending on their connected attributes, percentage of failure, and the roll of 2 dice. This type of gameplay isn't something that I've had a lot of experience with outside of Dungeons & Dragons, but it is definitely unique and engaging. There was one check I had to perform where I wanted a map of the district. I could either pay for it, or I could steal it. The odds of me successfully stealing it weren't exactly 50-50, more weighted towards failure. I just sat there pondering and weighing up the pros and cons. I needed to keep as much money as I could to pay for the motel room each night, and the odds are good enough that I might win if I steal it, but if I fail the check, then that may come with consequences that might impact how I interact with the uppity owner of the bookstore and the resulting objectives around it. I felt like I needed to stay in people's good books, because that's how you become an effective detective, right? Well, that depends on what you think an effective detective is. This game really allows you to play how you like, lest you're okay with the consequences and how it could affect the story. There is always a small chance that you won't roll well enough to succeed, even though the percentage is high. Conversely, that means that if a check has a low percentage, there is always the chance that it will result in a success. And failing a check isn't necessarily a negative, it just opens up a different thought process. Red checks, however, are permanent, and whatever outcome you get is final. But white checks can be reopened if you spend your experience points on the relative skill. But of course, that doesn't always mean that it'll be a success next time either. Items and clothing can be equipped to temporarily change your stats to become a better talker, or to gain access to places you previously couldn't. You'll spend a lot of time backtracking, revisiting areas of Martinez, and exploring other dialogue options from the magnificent cast. I fully recommend playing the Final Cut version, which adds in a veritable mixing pot of individually voiced accents and dialects, with the highlight being the detective's own internal narrator, voice acted by Lenval Brown, who has a voice made of actual honey.
There he still is, looking right through you with his white eyes.
The internal monologue will give you insight into the world, help fill in gaps, and suggest options to explore. It will big you up, and it will knock you down. It will also analyse the way you play, you as a detective and you as a player. I found myself being branded the sorry cop early on for being way too apologetic to people. I retaliated as if to say, no, I'm determined not to be that, only for the game to tell me to F off. And so to make a point to the game, I started being a bit more authoritative, taking a few more risks with dialogue options. Even though the game is full of some really heavy topics such as communism, racism, revolutions, murder and death, it can be acutely funny. There are opportunities to take silly risks. or choose options that might not come across as being professional, but might work out being the correct route to loosen up the most stoic of investigative partners. Because you are human, and so are the citizens of Revachol, and with that come stories and experiences. The lore is incredibly detailed, and it's all written, voiced, and narrated in this slick, smart, lyrical style. Even if some of the more complex details go over my head, it's all connected and can provide just a nugget of information to form your next approach. This game was a bit of a slow burner, and it's not a game to necessarily speedrun. There's no haste to it. It's only when you're closer to the end you can feel the tension ramping up as you get closer to solving the case. You can also play it with one hand. So you can shovel in whatsits with the other hand, obviously. What I mean to say is I played it like a serial drama. Sit down with drinks and snacks and absorb it for a few hours, put it down for a while to let the new information sink in, and then tune into the next episode of Detective Amnesia and Lieutenant Kimball. It's best to play this completely blind, which is why I've been hesitant to reveal everything. It's really awkward to talk about and having to avoid all the greatness hidden within its deep, murky depths, but it's definitely a recommendation. It's a poignant, heavy, absurd detective RPG. Investigation is integral to the plot. That's what you do, and it's up to you how you do it. Investigate the murder, listen to the world, find the killer, and most importantly, discover yourself.
Behold, you have no idea who this thing is, do you?